There is one single event that puts Salem on the world map, and that's the Salem witch trials.
Many innocent lives were snuffed out.
The Salem witch trials marked a 7-month period of mass hysteria in 1692. Over 150 people were arrested for allegedly using witchcraft to inflict harm on their fellow townspeople. This resulted in the executions of 20 people, 2 dogs, and the prison deaths of 5 more. Controversy also brewed around Reverend Sam Parris, Salem Village's first ordained minister in 1689. He quickly gained a reputation for his rigid ways and greedy nature. The Puritan villagers believed that quarreling was the work of the devil. Amid these simmering tensions, the Salem witch trials would be fueled by residents' suspicions and resentment toward their neighbors, as well as the fear of outsiders. The majority of the witchcraft accusers were children and teenagers. In January 1692, Parris's 9-year-old daughter Elizabeth, also known as Betty, became strangely ill. She dashed about, dove under furniture, contorted in pain, and complained of a fever. The cause of her symptoms may have been some combination of stress or other issues, but another reason could have been the air got fungus in the rye that they ate. It worked like a hallucinating drug. Betty was also joined by Sam Parris's niece, 11-year-old Abigail Williams. The two of them started having fits. They screamed, threw things, uttered peculiar sounds, and contorted themselves in strange positions. As other horrifying symptoms were displayed, they claimed that these were signs of satanic possession. A local doctor blamed the supernatural. Others began to have symptoms and make accusations. 12-year-old Ann Putnam, Elizabeth Hubbard, who was an orphan maid, Mercy Lewis, and Mary Warren all joined in. Elizabeth Parris and Abigail Williams blamed 3 women for afflicting them. Tituba, a Caribbean woman enslaved by the Parris family. Sarah Good, a homeless beggar, and Sarah Osborne, an elderly impoverished woman. Suspicion already began to focus on Tituba, who had been known to tell the girls tales of omens, voodoo, and witchcraft from her native folklore. All 3 women were brought before the local magistrates and interrogated for several days starting March 1st, 1692. Osborne claimed innocence, as did Good, but Tituba confessed. She said, "The devil came to me and bid me serve him." She described elaborate images of black dogs, red cats, yellow birds, and a tall man with white hair who wanted her to sign his book. She admitted to signing the book and claimed there were several other witches looking to destroy the Puritans. The consistency of the 2 girls' accusations suggests strongly that the girls worked out their stories together. Soon, Ann Putnam and Mercy Lewis were also reported seeing witches flying through the winter mist. Magistrates even questioned Sarah Good's 4-year-old daughter, Dorothy. They accused her of being deranged and animalistic after consorting with the devil. Young Dorothy confessed and claimed she had seen her mother with the devil. She was released after nearly 7 months in prison. Her mother, Sarah Good, was hung during Dorothy's time in jail. Bridget Bishop was the first accused witch to be executed. She was an older woman known for her gossipy habits. When asked if she committed witchcraft, she responded by saying, "I am innocent as a child unborn." She was tried and found guilty the same day. 1 week later, on June 10th, she was hung. Bishop was the first person hung on what is now called Gallows Hill. Hysteria and paranoia brought on a stream of accusations over the next few months. The questioning got more serious. Dozens of people from Salem and other Massachusetts villages were brought in for questioning. Persons who scoffed at the accusations of witchcraft risked becoming targets of accusations themselves. John Proctor was an opinionated tavern owner who openly denounced the witch trials. He was actually accused of serial murder, but Proctor fought back, accusing confessed witches of lying, complaining of torture, and demanding that his trial be moved to Boston. The efforts proved futile. Proctor was hung. His wife Elizabeth, who was also convicted of witchcraft, was spared execution because of her pregnancy. Witch tests were used to prove whether the accused were actually guilty of witchcraft. If an accused witch managed to pass one test, the court would try another test until he or she eventually failed. One test was a swimming test in which the accused witches were bound at their wrists and ankles and dropped into a body of water. If they floated, they were guilty of witchcraft. But, however, if they sank, they were innocent, but you figured it out. They would probably drown. The witch cake test was when a witch made a cake of rye and used her own urine. and then fed it to a dog. The dog would supposedly have adverse effects. Tituba, who was never hung at all, had famously baked a witch cake. A skin test is where they searched the body for marks of the devil. Finally, the prayer test. The accused were made to recite the Lord's Prayer, or a selection of scripture from memory. If they made an error, they were a witch. No execution caused more unease in Salem than that of the village's ex-minister John Burroughs. He was identified by several of the accusers as the ringleader of witches. Among the accusers of Burroughs was 19-year-old Mercy Lewis. She told the court that Burroughs flew her to the top of a mountain, pointed towards the surrounding land, promised her all the kingdoms if she would only sign his book. Sounds very familiar to the story in the Bible. At an execution, a defendant in the Puritan colonies was expected to confess, thus to save his soul. Burroughs on Gallows Hill insisted of his innocence and then recited the Lord's Prayer perfectly. The prayer test had greatly moved the crowd, but the agitation of the crowd caused Cotton Mather to intervene and remind the crowd that Burroughs had had his day in court and had lost. He declared that the devil had often been transformed into the angel of light. Burroughs was hung. When charges were brought against Martha Corey, a loyal member of the church in Salem Village, the community became concerned. If she could be a witch, then anyone could. Giles Corey, the husband of Martha, spent 5 months in chains in the Salem jail. He had nothing but contempt for these trials. Not wanting his farm to go to the state if convicted, he refused to stand trial. The penalty was to be pressed under heavy stones. 3 days after Corey's death on September 22nd, 1692, 8 more convicted witches, including Giles' wife Martha, were hung. They were the last victims of the witch hunt. Betty Paris never attended the trials. Her parents sent her away to avoid the whole uproar. Sam Paris was dismissed from his job as the minister in Salem Village. Abigail, on the other hand, played a predominant role in the Salem witch trial. She accused 57 people of witchcraft. 12-year-old Ann Putnam accused 60 people of witchcraft. She would later give the only known apology for what she had done. Elizabeth Hubbard accused 29 people. Mercy Lewis and Mary Warren also made several accusations. Now get this, nothing happened to the accusers or anyone else involved for their false accusations. Contrary to belief, no one was ever burned at the stake during the witch trials. Many of these innocent Salem residents were put to death based on spectral evidence. That is, when a testimony in which witnesses claimed that the accused appeared to them and did them harm in a dream or a vision. Predominant minister Increase Mather was against this. However, his son Cotton Mather was supporting it. There was a witch jail. This jail was nothing more than a dungeon for the accused. Men and women kept in this prison basement were starved, tortured, exposed to inhumane conditions. 5 people died in this prison as they awaited trial. In October 1692, doubts were developing as how many respectable people could be guilty. Reverend John Hale began to question the proceedings. The educated elite like Thomas Brattle began efforts to end the witch hunting hysteria that had taken over the town of Salem. Also, crazy always comes to an end when it hits home. When Governor Phipps's wife was accused of witchcraft, he worked quickly to eliminate spectral evidence from the trial. In a matter of weeks, the trials were over, and those awaiting trial or execution were immediately released. The Salem Witch Trials Memorial was dedicated on August 5, 1992 by Holocaust survivor and author Elie Wiesel. Unsurprisingly, films and series with themes of witchcraft or Halloween are often filmed in Salem. Among these is the TV show Bewitched, The Lords of Salem, and of course Disney's own Hocus Pocus. Even though hundreds of years have passed, the atrocities committed during this time have stayed with locals and the rest of the world alike. We'll keep the videos coming here on Strange History. Hey, check out this video about the hauntings in the White House. Ooh.